It's waiver wire time. It's Bol Bol time. There are other players to talk about as well, but Michael Bolton, you have made me discuss Bol ad nauseum.
Thanks, Josh. It's Michael Bolton here, and it's time for another episode of the Locked On Fantasy Basketball Podcast. Let's get to it.
Let's get to it, indeed.
You are Locked On Fantasy, your daily NBA fantasy podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello and welcome to the Locked On Fantasy Basketball Podcast, brought to you by Basketball Monster. My name is Josh Lloyd, and my favorite member of Paw Patrol is Chase. I'm also the lead fantasy analyst at basketballmonster.com, and you can find me on Blue Sky, joshloyd.bsky.social, on Twitter at redrock_bball, on TikTok at redrock_bball, and on Instagram at Locked On Fantasy Basketball. Thank you for making Locked On Fantasy Basketball your first listen every day. We are free. We're available on all platforms. Also, we've got lockedondaily.com. You can sign up over there and get the best NBA newsletter stuffed into your inbox 5 days a week. It is the Waiver Wire show. The YouTube viewers to this show, when we did it earlier in the week, liked my slight tweak in format. It's not really that different of a tweak, but a little bit more visuals, a little bit more highlighting on specific players. So we are going to continue to do that. Thank you for the feedback here on Galentine's Day. It is the 13th of February here in Australia, so I'm ready to celebrate Galentine's Day with all my gals. And we're ready to talk about the waiver wire. So let's have a look at the most added players over the last 48 hours. You'll be shocked to know that the big fella himself, Bol is the most added player. Obviously, yesterday Bol was at about 12% rostered on Basketball Monster's advanced roster metric. He is now up to 83%. So in 12 hours, he's jumped 70%. I tried to grab him in my leagues. I got him in one, and I missed in 3 others. That's okay. The stats you see on the screen for any of these players that we put up here on YouTube are going to be for the last 7 days. Bol is averaging 13 and 6 with 2 threes, almost 3 blocks, shooting only 50% from the line but playing 24 minutes. That makes him 64th in both categories in points leagues over that time. It is worth mentioning that Bradley Beal is out, and he is going to play 28 to 30 minutes when he returns. And ostensibly, Bol has taken Beal's minutes because he took Dunn's minutes, who was taking Beal's minutes. Is it worth grabbing Bol? Yeah, it is, and we talked about this yesterday. But don't be fooled by this. Bol started out red hot in that game yesterday. I thought he had some massive struggles after that. He still is not a particularly strong on-court player. But post-game, Mike Budenholzer was like, we're going to, what did he say, push the envelope about starting Bol. So Bol is going to start for the foreseeable future. And we'll see where it goes. That could last 2 games. It could last the rest of the season. But we talk about getting out ahead of it. We talk about the value of guys. And when someone like Bol in 24 minutes who's close to top 60, right, that's just like you have to do it. You have to take the chance. You have to see what you can do with it. Now, the blocks won't stay like that. The minutes could. Everything else could. Everything else could stay that way, and he can actually shoot better. All right, so, yeah, like we have to add him. Even though my faith in him as a player is pretty low, and my faith in Budenholzer not losing confidence in him or getting frustrated, that's high. I think he's going to lose that confidence. But that doesn't matter. You just got to go with Bol. You have to add him, and we do it. The other guys on the most added list on Basketball Monster, Donovan Clingan, number 2. I don't have an exact bit of information for you on Deandre Ayton. I don't believe there's any fear of a torn Achilles, so that's a W. But the information that I have is that it is considered that he will miss some time, and there is a fear that might be something that doesn't allow him to play again this season. I don't know that that's true. Do not drop Deandre Ayton based on that information because it's not confirmed yet. I would suggest we're looking at a minimum of 3 weeks out for Ayton. A minimum of 3 weeks for Ayton. Some of that is encapsulated by the All-Star break. I would be very shocked if he plays in February. And we are much greater than a 0% chance that it is Ayton's season over. Yeah, Rob Williams is still there. Yeah, my thoughts on Clingan still remain. I don't think he's going to ever develop into a star player. I think he's still a well below average NBA player at the moment, but that doesn't really even mean anything because that's what Bol is as well. Clingan, we just add him. He is a must-add player, and we see what happens. The next most added player is Aaron Wiggins. And honestly, that is one of the biggest chases there is. I don't agree with this at all. We talked about him on one of the shows, the Sell High show yesterday. He cannot do this. He will not do this. That is a chase. I don't mind if you want to do it. I don't get why you would for today, though. Maybe it's for Thursday, but still, no. Quentin Grimes, I like that one. We talked about that the path was looking like he would get stuck onto the Nick Nurse minutes diet. It happened. He started the last game in the second half. I think he will start the next game in the first half. We'll see today. And 36 minutes of Grimes is absolutely enough to be a 12-team league guy. The next most added player is Bud Hield, like whatever. I think his upside is really low. I don't mind an add of Bud at the moment because we're waiting to see what happens when Kuminga returns, and while they play different positions and Buddy's shooting is needed, blah, blah, blah. Buddy's shooting's not always good. And it's just, extra shots. It's just a couple of extra shots that go away. And when the only thing that Buddy Hield does is shoot, when you lose a couple of those, well, it's not great. For now, whatever. The next most added player is Jakaris LeVert. He was great in the last game. He was really, really good. I don't feel 100% confident in LeVert being able to do that every game. It's intriguing. It's a little bit interesting. He just feels destined to me to always be the guy that when you look, you go, LeVert's the 129th ranked player. Okay, that's great. Should we do anything with it? Not really. That's sort of how I'm viewing him. Like, he's fine. Much like Hield. Like, they're just fine. Whatever. Add them. They're okay. They'll provide enough value. But they're also a great illustration of the fact that sort of player, there's just a lot of them that sit on the waiver wire. So when you're making moves and deciding, do I add this guy? Do I consider this? Like, would I drop LeVert or Hield or Wiggins to add Bol? 100 times out of 100. Even though I know that the likelihood of Hield being my 13th best player and LeVert being my 13th best player is way higher than Bol being even rosterable. It's way higher, but I don't care. Because I can find that spot. I can work that spot out later. I can't work out getting a league winner. I can't work out getting like a top 70 guy through those players. Can't do it. On Yahoo, the most added players. Again, I don't like to double up these names, so I don't as best as I can. The most added player on Yahoo is one that I cannot get behind. It's the tank Tom Bryant. And I get why, because he scored like 18 points yesterday and Miles Turner is out today. But why you would waste an ad to add Thomas Bryant with every single team in the NBA playing to play him today is absolutely beyond me. It's nonsensical. It's a waste of an ad. Much like the kid in Fighting Santa, like, give yourself an uppercut. Punch his beard off. Why? Why would you add Thomas Bryant? Spencer Dinwiddie, the second most added player. He was very good in the last game. We're going to talk a fair bit of Mavs today. They've got nobody, so they're going to have to lean into wings and guards, and Dinwiddie is whatever, he's okay. They have no one who can really handle the ball. He's one of them. I don't mind it. I'm not going to get overly excited about it. I would add this guy instead, though. Max Christie. By the way, those, if you're watching at the moment, those like monochrome Mavs jerseys with that font and him wearing the 00, as the kids would say, it's tough. I love it. Christie is, over the last week, he is actually a top 100 player. He's top 80 in points leagues. He's doing that in 32 minutes, averaging 18 points. Some of the shooting's a little high, but not that high. 49 from the field, 82 from the line, averaging 18, 4 and 3. 2 threes a game. None of that, look, 20 usage, none of that is crazy. He's still available in a lot of spots, but you'll notice the big discrepancy. 30% Yahoo, 93% Basketball Monster. Roster percentage. I would be, there are, at this point, and this is, again, this weird time of year, there are a lot of players who have popped up as must rosters. Bol, Clingan, Grimes, Christie. There's going to be others that pop up as well. I like what Max is doing. I don't think that he's got like gigantic top 50 upside, but I'm not going to rule that out, honestly. With Davis out, it wouldn't surprise me that Max has a run of averaging 20 points, 5 rebounds, 4 assists, 46 and 83, a steal and a half. That wouldn't shock me if we get a run like that. The next most added player. I believe the last time I did this, or even on yesterday's recap show, the most dropped player was Karlo Makovic. The fourth most added player is Karlo Makovic. He started last game. I'm very interested to see what happens. But to me, it was very clearly because CJ McCollum was out. Now, again, with this team who was going nowhere, if Zion sits, Makovic starts. If Misi sits, Makovic starts. If Murphy sits, Makovic starts. If McCollum sits, Makovic starts. If Alvarado sits, Makovic starts. Right? That's all like, we do not need much to change here. So, I get it. I don't know what's going to happen. They could roll out Boston. They could roll out Hawkins. The guy with a better fantasy game is Makovic. I don't know if he's a good player yet. He might not be. He probably isn't. But I get it. I also just think that there was a little knee-jerky reaction to people adding him because CJ missed the last game without necessarily looking at the reasons. Asar Thompson, the next most added player, he's been very good. I tell you what I love is I love making jokes. I don't know if you're aware of that. I love making a joke. The double onyx, double titanium, platinum, palladium leagues. I love making those jokes, right? But every time I make the joke, I do it every time. And there's at least once a week, someone still jumps in and is like, you'd consider adding Asar Thompson? In competitive leagues, he's been gone for weeks. Thanks, Onyx. That's cool. But the numbers would suggest that it hasn't been worth it 4, 5, 6 weeks. It's been worth it for about 3 days. And we can all get ahead of ourselves and get the old butter on the hands. Use butter, yeah? You can get the butter on the hands and get excited. Go, I've been holding him for weeks, but that just can end up costing you. That can cost you because you've just got a guy who's not doing anything and you've missed out on other pickups and you missed out on streaming and you're just waiting and waiting and waiting. Now, Sar looked great last game. They won by 1 million points. And, like, I should do... I'm going to create a graphic. Ideas in the comments. Ideas in the comments for this graphic. It's going to be like, but they played the Bulls. It's coming. Note to me, right? But they played the Bulls. That's coming. So watch that. The next most added player, Jackson Hayes. I get it. I don't know why he was added today. Because, like, they signed Alex Len. I thought people would have been, I don't know about Alex Len. Jackson Hayes being added. Actually, look, he has been top 100 over the last week. I don't mind that. Just the timing on that is a little curious. I think that he is a better player than Alex Len. I think that he could easily sustain 12-team value. Would I drop Jackson Hayes for Bol Bol? 100%, right? Would I drop him for Donovan Clingan? Easily. Grimes? Yes. Christie? Yes. But I don't mind having Hayes on my team. And I don't think Len is good, honestly. Today's episode is brought to you by Waiver. After the holiday hustle, there is nothing like giving your home a little TLC. You always find that decluttering and you're reorganizing, rearranging your space, it can put you back into a routine and give you that little burst, that bolt, that jolt of energy. Do you like bolt or jolt? I think jolt's a better word. Of energy. Because when you're tidying and clearing up, it just can help reset your goals and your focus. Wayfair has everything that you need to help you with these tasks, all within your budget. The furniture is amazing there. Whatever you need to fit your budget and your needs, it's all there over at Wayfair. And one of the best parts of it, well, they got free and hassle-free delivery, even for the large items. Wayfair's site is easy to navigate, everything that you need, all your style, all your options, all your budget. It is all there over at Wayfair. So give your home the refresh that it needs with Wayfair. Head to wayfair.com right now. That is right now. That is WAYFAIR.com. Maybe wait till after the show. WAYFAIR.com. Wayfair, every style, every home. Okay, let's go through the next bunch of added players. We're going to go to Fantrax, which of course uses a 7-day reporting period. So you'll see some of the guys that were hot ads and maybe not as hot anymore. And the number one on this list is Big Esso himself, Matas Buzelis, who was very poor in the game. That's not true. He was sort of poor, but so was the whole team. I wouldn't make a single move based on what the Bulls did in that last game. Kobe White was bad. Vucevic was bad. Patrick Williams sucked. Buzelis didn't do anything. I wouldn't do anything with any of those things based on that last game. Buzelis remains a hold. That's all good. The second most added player over the last 7 days on Fantrax is the Toronto Raptors' current starting center, Jonathan Mobo. I'm not sure if you remember this. At the very start of the year, Media Day, Jakob Poeltl was up on the stand. And they were talking about the season. He's like, yeah, like, we're not actually, like, our goal isn't to win games. Like, we're not trying to win games this season. That's not what we're focused on. Thank you, Jakob. All right. They locked in Brandon Ingram to a contract. He doesn't need to play. Poeltl's dealing with a hip pointer. He doesn't need to play. I don't know whether Jakob Poeltl comes back. Honestly, we are at a decision, and we don't do it now. There's 2 days before the All-Star break. We can just sit and rest and breathe a little bit. But I think that we will get to the stage pretty quickly, and sometimes you can get ahead of it and you can make a mistake. But I think if you drop Jakob Poeltl now, I think it'd be okay. You would miss out, I think, on a little bit of action, but I'm not sure it'll be a huge amount. He literally said this. He said that their focus is not winning games. If they want to win games, Jakob Poeltl plays, because they don't have somebody to replace him. The guy that is replacing him is John Mobo, second-round rookie, who's got an interesting stat set. He is 133rd over the last week. He's playing 25 minutes, averaging 8, 5, and 3. Steal, block 3. He is the actual right on the nose triple one. 1.0 threes, 1.0 blocks, 1.0 steals over the last week. He's 6% rostered on Yahoo and 6% on Yahoo. And advanced basketball monster numbers. So your double Onyxes. Is he in your competitive league rostered? He is... That's fringe, right? 133rd. It's fringe. And can he be better than this? Probably a little bit. So that's a little stashy. It's not Clingan, it's not Bol, it's not Grimes, it's not Christie. It's not even Hayes. It's a little stashy. The next one's more stashy. It's Tristan Vukcevic, the third most added player on Fantrax. We saw a really good game from him last time out. Alex Sarr is likely to return today. I will be incredibly interested if the thing that I thought would happen back in September happens right now. Whereas that Vukcevic is in the rotation all the way through from the All-Star break through to the end of the season. Because he's been backing up Rashawn Holmes. So if Sarr comes back and starts, is Holmes the backup? Or does Vukcevic remain the backup? Because if Vukcevic remains the backup, then we're on. And if you're in anything deeper than 14s, if you're even in a 14, you look to consider him. Alex Len, the most added player, fourth most added player on Fantrax. I just spoke about him quite a bit. I don't think he's very good. That's a deeper league spot. We adjust if they decide, yeah, he's way better than Hayes. I don't think that's going to happen. But I don't think we need to do much with that. Grayson Allen, the next one. Sure, his minutes are very much all over the shop. We saw he played 19 minutes last game. It is not crazy, though, that he could come in and play 30 minutes in the next game. Bol gets reduced, and then we're back to the Grayson Allen story. He is a stream guy, and that is it. And the sixth most added player, what an interesting name this is. Jordan Goodwin. Jordan Goodwin. We have seen this man on tanking teams in the past come in and put up bananas numbers. Today, you're going to have... Luka's going to play, but Gabe Vincent's out. Don't Finney-Smith is out. Goodwin is already ahead of Shake Milton. He's played 20 minutes in 3 consecutive games, some of them without Luka, obviously. It's an interesting deep league play. It's not really a stash. It's not a luxury. It's not a silly season thing. It's just, Jordan Goodwin. Just watch. He's in the rotation as we currently speak. Let's go across now to dropped players on Basketball Monster. The number one most dropped player is Dalton Connect. I don't really need to tell you why. He was traded back in the rescinded deal. He's not going to play enough. You move on. Easy decision. The next one's curious. It's Keon Johnson, the second most dropped player. I'll show you the numbers. He's the highlighted player here. Keon Johnson over the last week. He's the 107th ranked player in category leagues, playing 27 minutes a night. He's averaging 28 fantasy points. That's 101st. He's down to 22% rostered on Yahoo and 66 on our advanced number. He's averaging 14, 6, and 2 with a steal and a block on shooting 36%. Have the last 2 games been frustrating? Yes. Could it be possible that Cam Thomas comes back and eats into the production? Possibly. But if this is bad, Keon Johnson, and it's not good, I'm not... Honestly, I might have even said, yeah, you can maybe move on, but I didn't actually realize that those numbers were as solid as they were. So... I'm not. Yeah, I'd be going back to the wire and go, can I do this? Should I be re-adding? Because that's actually pretty good. Those numbers are pretty good, and that's while shooting 36%. So if 27 minutes becomes 32 and 36% becomes 41, well, that's top 75. So yeah, that's interesting. That if he's dropped in that many spots, I would be just having a bit of a I'd have a bit of a trawl. I'd have a bit of a cruise through the waiver wire and just see what sort of options come up to the window. Goga Badadze is the third most dropped player. Fine. Plenty of other options to try. And if you need to, you can go back to Goga. It has not been good for him. He had 4 blocks last game, but the minutes are down. I need 25 a night, more than that, to be confident in it. And he's not, so I'm not. Gary Trent. See you guys. We know what he is. Easy. Herb Jones. People still dropping him. Call that welcome to 5 weeks ago. And people dropped Yusuf Nurkic, which is an interesting call, considering that we got the news yesterday that Nurkic is going to play today. So, all right. We have no resolution on Mark Williams. It is entirely possible that Williams doesn't play the rest of the season, that there is a fracture in all this relationship. That is entirely possible. The Hornets are clearly not going anywhere. It is easily possible to say, well, the Hornets might want to just get Nurkic out there working back into game shape and see what happens over the final 2 months. And he plays 27 minutes a night and rolls top 75. I don't know. I find it curious that people drop Nurkic now when he's probably going to play. I don't know. That's a weird one. On Yahoo, the most dropped player. I'm not going to do the stat call out on this guy because we know that we're dropping Nick Richards. That's an easy call, right? Nick Richards has been bad. He continues to be bad. He's never shown me a sign of being good. He was an interesting, maybe take a stream on him against some bad teams player, but as often happens, especially on teams who are trying to be good, if you are a bad real-life player, you will not get to play. And I'm not saying the Suns are a good team. They're not, but they are trying to be a good team. And that's a very different thing. That's a very different story. Think for a second how much different the Suns would be, say, had they had gone and gotten Day'Ron Sharpe, who's just a way better player than Nick Richards. If they had done that trade and gotten Day'Ron, I would have been fully, not even not half mast, not full mast, whatever. I would have been 1.5 mast if they had got Day'Ron Sharpe to fill that role. And I don't even know how you get to 1.5 mast. And I hope my missus isn't watching this because she'll get scared. But that's what it would have been. Nick, bad. Nick, drop. Budenholzer, the most dropped player on Yahoo. Second most. What? Surely nobody just react to that game yesterday, did they? The only thing I can think of is someone said, I'll drop Budenholzer for Bol, which I actually wouldn't have done. But I understand that. But bloody hell. The next most dropped player, they're realizing, Dennis Schroeder has been dropped. The umlaut himself, back to the bench. Cool, see ya. He's Marcus Sasser's replacement. Why are we holding? We're not. W. The next most dropped player is Scoot Henderson. All right, he's out with an ankle injury. People just have no patience with him, I guess. And the numbers over the last week haven't been good. But again, he's 166th over the last week, despite playing 24 minutes and averaging under 8 points, with a incredibly low 16% usage. I don't really get the Blazers' plan, but whatever. I would hold on to Scoot without any question. It's frustrating, clearly. I would 100% hold Scoot over Shaedon Sharpe without any question whatsoever. Would I hold him over Tamani Kamara? Probably. It hasn't been a good week, but I don't think I would have made that move. The next most dropped player on Yahoo is Gershon Yabusele. I get that. Played 22 minutes last game. I think that's entirely reasonable. Because the thing is that Embiid will miss time. We know this. They're bad. They're terrible. But when Embiid misses time, that does not guarantee top 100 Yabusele. It guarantees some time of top 100, but other games you get bad ones. He's fine, but he really is just an injury replacement. And the last one on that list is Ayo Dosunmu, which, again, I'm not the biggest Ayo guy, but I think he might have just been reacting a little bit aggressively to something that happened yesterday that actually means nothing overall. But again, would I drop Ayo for Bol? Probably. I probably would have done that. I know this is a Bol-heavy show, but when a guy goes from 12% to 82% rostered, he's clearly on our minds. All right. These, I apologize for the length, that's what she said, on these shows. But I think it's worth going into a little bit more detail. On Fantrax, over the last 7 days, who has been dropped? Number one is Duncan Robinson. I don't think he should have been added in any 12-team leagues anyway, outside of positional, situational streaming. So whatever, I don't care that he's been dropped. That's all good. Jose Alvarado. Remember, this is a 7-day window of reporting. Now, Alvarado's last game was terrible, but he did start. I would try to hold on to him. He can be an interesting enough player, and much like Makovic, there is a chance for 28 minutes a night down the stretch here. I would try to hold him. The next most dropped player, Vasilije Micic, who is now in Phoenix. He doesn't even get the LaMelo Ball bump. He's not going to play. Bye-bye. The next one is Derek Jones, who was like a hot ad not that long ago. He was putting up numbers and, he's doing these things, and he was great, and he's not now. He's 274th over the last week. He's down to 11% on Yahoo and 20% on Basketball Monster. He's still averaging 11 points per game, but man, bro's hit 1 out of 4 free throws, 25%. He's got no defensive stats and no assists. He is a deep league guy. He is a streamer for 12s at best, and it's a totally reasonable decision to have dropped him. Those numbers are terrible. He needs absolutely everything going right for him to be, like, at best, your 12th best guy in a standard league, I don't like those. I don't like those odds. The next most drop players on Fantrax, the Duck, Luke Kennard. He played 12 minutes last game and went scoreless, whatever it was, 15 minutes. We don't roster him. And Cole Anthony, who has been very disappointing the last couple. I get it. We don't hold him. We stream him in if necessary. And that is probably about that. Now, let's do some must roster guys. These players, are sitting either, I use two different criteria here. They're either under 40% on Yahoo or they're under, what did I use? I think under 70% on Basketball Monsters advanced number. And they all project to me to be top 100-ish guys over the next 3 weeks or so. And they're just guys I don't think you want to leave on the wire. Number 1, Donovan Clingan. We talked about him already. And I just wanted to include him here just so you're aware. I think you've got to add him. Number 2 is a player that we haven't spoken about yet, and that is Keon Ellis. I don't know what they're going to do. And we'll get some data today. If they play him back to 22 minutes, then he is not a must-roster player. But they benched DeRozan in one game. They benched Murray in the next game. Not benched as in didn't start them, but played them 30 minutes instead of 37. And this gave those extra 7 to Keon. He's 135th only over the last week. That's not very good. And in points leagues, this doesn't really apply. He is not a good points league player. But in 29 minutes a night, like, again, 11 usage is putrid. He's at 18% Yahoo, 80 on Basketball Monster, roster number. That's 135th. That's not good numbers. Don't be fooled into a straight 9-cat ranking for him because, again, what's that going to give you? What value does it give you? It tells you that Mikal Bridges has been 60 spots better than Giannis this season. Ellis has got 10, 4, and 1.5 with 1.3 steals and half a block. The steals there can actually rise from that, and it's the minutes that are interesting to me. I would grab him. The next guy, again, I don't really know how I feel. Kamara just goes back and forth for me. My projections do like him over this short term. I'm not as convinced, but I'll put him on this list. I've got Isaiah Collier there, who just, again, has to be rostered. Has to be rostered. Isaiah Collier, by the way, not sure if you're aware of this, has to be rostered. Keyshawn George, I'm less has to be on him, because there are a few things where I go, don't know about that. But if you play 34 minutes a night, and there's some steal and block upside with shooting upside and variance upside and all that sort of stuff, I'm okay with it. And the last one is Bol. Like, we have to grab Bol. Like, that's an obvious. And I could put Grimes on there. I could put Christie on there as well. But there's 6 names that I thought might get you a little bit interested. What about droppable players? What do we mean by droppable players? Do you have to drop them? Nah, you don't, but you can. Because there are certain things, whether it's their performance, their production, their rest of season outlook, where I think if you take the risk and move on to grab somebody else who's more interesting, that it's not going to burn you too much on the back end. And the first name I want to go to here is Jerami Grant. You look at Jerami Grant's numbers over the last week and go, it'd be pretty silly to drop the 103rd ranked player. You would be, that's right. But all that happened, it doesn't mean that it happens moving forward. Because look what he's averaging. He's a power forward, by the way. He's averaging 13 and 3 with 1.5 assists. Those base numbers are horrific. He's shooting 34 from the field. Again, horrific. He is a better shooter than that. The only reason he's able to be the 103rd ranked player of the last week is at 2 blocks and 1.5 steals. And I just give you just a quick second to go check his season-long numbers on steals and blocks, and you can look at that and go, yeah, okay, that's not going to hold, so we're not going to do anything with it. It's a nice little bump. It happened. It has no predictive value that he's going to do this as we move forward. So I think if you moved on from Jez, you'd feel all right about it. The second name on this list is Kyle Kuzma. Now, it would, again, be stupid, silly, however you want to phrase it, to drop Kuzma right now because Giannis is out. I 100% agree with that. It would be silly to drop him at this point with Giannis on the sidelines. But we're talking about, hey, if I need to make a move, Bol, to do something that might be good now and in the future, sometimes you have to take the short-term pain. And if he's your worst player or projects to be your worst player, Kyle Kuzma, you move on. He, when they are healthy and Giannis and Dame and Lopez and Portis, all these guys are playing, he's not going to do enough. I don't think. The next one there is Klay Thompson. Again, Klay might be in a real strong run here with an extra usage, but he's still only playing like 25 minutes a night. Dinwiddie and Christie can play over him. It's not, they don't need guards / small forwards. They need centers. So again, he might have some okay games. I don't think it's a must though. DeAndre Hunter. Cool. Last game, he started. There was no Max Strus. I do not think he's going to find any way to be able to maintain 12-10 value. I don't see how it happens. Benedict Mathurin on the bench with Aaron Nesmith starting over him. He's already been bad over the last month or 6 weeks anyway. No reason to hold him in standard leagues. And the last one is Clint Capella. I know people were excited. Oh, Capella off the injury report. I don't think Capella was on the injury report for the last game. They're just not playing him. They're just like, he's not getting played. They're not actually ruling him out on the injury report as far as I'm aware. So, while it's great, we get the report, he's not on the injury report. I don't think he was last time. Now, we'll get some information. Now, it could be very different here because Larry Nance is injured, right? So do they go to Capella back into the rotation as a backup player? We will get that information today. But even then, 18 minutes of Capella behind a Kongwu, yeah, it's not good for me. We transition from one Atlanta big man to another Atlanta big man. Muhammad, why are you gay? You are gay. He's the 48th ranked player over the last week, Muhammad. And that's what we're doing here, looking at top 100 guys over the last week. Let's look at what Gay brought us. Muhammad has been in and out of the G League. His roster percentages are absolutely in the toilet. They're so low. 2% and 8% advanced. He's the 48th ranked player. He's averaging 34 fantasy points. What on earth is going on? 12 and 6 with 2 steals and 2.5 blocks. Now, obviously, those defensive numbers are fake. He's doing that in 19 minutes as well. But 47 and 83, he's a pretty strong shooter. One of the issues that I had with Gay from memory coming out of the draft, coming out of Washington State, was like he sort of just was this high usage chucker who didn't really understand where he needed to be, and he was a little bit older of a prospect. Putting up those defensive numbers with shooting ability is bloody interesting. And if they don't go to Capella as the backup center, well, then he's got a pathway as the starting 4, and Krejci's out, by the way, as the starting 4 and the backup 5. Now, Domi Barlow can be in there as well. It's pretty interesting. If I'm in a 14-team league, that's an immediate add. He's 2% rostered, Muhammad Gay. 2. That's an easy add in those leagues. The 65th ranked player over the last week is Carlton Carrington. He's put together a couple of nice games. I'm still a little worried about the usage numbers and what on earth they do when Middleton and Smart actually play, if they actually play. It's okay to have him. That's fine. Steph Castle's 84th. That's largely on the back of that one huge scoring game. I still don't believe that he's going to maintain clear top 100 or top 120 numbers with Fox around, but the last couple of games have been good. The 1-4 was bad. More data, we keep getting it in. That's been a very good run. I don't fully buy it. Max Strus is the 85th ranked player. I 100% would not waste a roster spot on Max Strus in a 12-team league. Not at all. Good numbers. Not denying they happened because they did. Don't care. Not rostering him in a 12-team league. Luke Cornett, 95th. He had like one really big game in there, and that skews those numbers. He is the guy, though. If Porzingis is down, I'd probably look to Cornett over Horford, to be honest. He's really established himself as a pretty good player. And the last one there is Spencer Dinwiddie, who's the 99th ranked player over the last week, which is fine. He's at least on the 14-team league radar. If we look at some injury replacement players. I've only got to put 2 names on this because I think a lot of the other injury replacement guys we've spoken about before, John Mobo, one of those ones, for example, in Toronto. But last game with Gafford out, and I think Gafford is going to miss quite a bit of time here, and so is Anthony Davis. Don't be shocked if we do not see these guys until the end of March, if at all. Don't be shocked about that. They started Olivier Maxence Prosper in place. Now, he was a late first-round pick last year. He didn't really do anything as a rookie. He's barely done anything this season. He's still just 1% rostered on Yahoo, 3% on Basketball Monster. Over the last week, he's played 16 minutes a night. He's 248th. 5 and 2 with 1.3 steals. That's interesting. He scored 16 points in the last game. I don't think he's got the greatest fantasy game. He's very much down the list of other guys to add. But would I use him or Najee Marshall, who I was just going to talk about in a second? Probably Najee, honestly. He's got more of a track record of being good. I think that Prosper could start and play 27 minutes a night, and he can't really be much of a center, but it's just going to require random fluke shooting and a couple of outlier defensive games for it to make sense. And I don't like to rely upon that sort of stuff. The other name that I've got on that injured list is Kenneth Simpson Jr., KJ Simpson. There's no Vasa Micic. There's no LaMelo Ball. Simpson's going to start. I could put Nick Smith in this list as well. I think he's okay to roster just generally. Simpson might be a 10-point player. I tell you how I look at him. Jose Alvarado, basically. That's what I'm looking at Simpson like. KJ Simpson had incredibly similar numbers to Fred VanVleet coming out of college. Older point guard, good assists, good steals, good threes. The shooting hasn't come across. The usage is low. This is a stashy play, but KJ is got an opportunity now. And I think if he gets more comfortable, there's a chance at like 10, 4, and 7 with 1.2 steals, shooting 40%, hitting 1.7 threes, which is not great, but it's we have to pay attention to it. The last list I'm going to put up here is just a bunch of other names that I think we need to take a look at. The first one on that list is Najee Marshall. I just talked about him. I don't know whether he will start. Jason Kidd seems to like keeping Marshall on the bench. Interesting thing, and I tweeted this out yesterday. I haven't really said anything on the show, but because I've been thinking about it. But do you remember? You remember Jason Kidd? You know Jason Kidd, right? And you know that the Mavericks traded Luka Doncic. Yeah, we know that. We'll literally never forget that. Jason Kidd used to be the coach of the Brooklyn Nets. Jason Kidd engineered a way out of the Brooklyn Nets by Lawrence Frank. He thought was coming for his power a little bit, so he sent Lawrence Frank out of being a game day coach and banished him to the office. Now, Lawrence Frank is now the Clippers GM. He was like, bro, why are you being so good of a coach? Get out of here. He did that, right? Then he tried to make a play for the GM job while he was the coach of the Nets. Tried to take Billy King's job. And then that didn't work, so then he secretly organized to become the Bucks coach while he was still the coach of the Nets. And he ended up getting, I think, traded from the Nets to the Bucks to become the head coach over there. And when he was the head coach over there, he started having influence on personnel decisions. He was universally rated as the worst coach in the entire NBA. There is some stuff in the book on Giannis by Miran Fader about how the players hated him, in particular how he literally just broke Larry Sanders mentally and some of his bad coaching. And then he went to the Lakers as an assistant coach. And do you remember the memes about the Lakers? About how Jason Kidd is going there to white ant Frank Vogel? Watch your back. Jason Kidd's coming for you. Jason Kidd wants the power. Remember all that? We've forgotten a lot. We forget a lot of things about Jason Kidd, wife beater. We forget about that sort of stuff. Drink driver. There's a lot of stuff about him that gets swept under the rug. A lot of things about Jason Kidd that are just adding up at the moment to me. All this talk. Remember the stuff last year when media members were criticizing some of the Mavericks play, and he's like, "Don't ask me. Like I'm just watching like you guys. I don't know the answers. I don't know what's going on." What the hell's that? I don't know that. I don't think Jason Kidd orchestrated any of this with Luka Doncic. It's the stupidest trade of all time. But I wouldn't be shocked. I wouldn't be shocked if Kidd was like, "Man, Luka's doing too much here. Like, I don't think he's the right guy. Like, why is he trying to take control of things?" I wouldn't be shocked if Kidd's just said a few, "Fucking Luka wants this, does he? Who's he think he is?" I wouldn't be shocked because there is a documented history of Jason Kidd power plays needing to be the number one guy. There is a documented history of this. So, yeah. Don't know. Najee Marshall, one of the interesting names. We'll see whether he gets opportunities or not in Dallas. He could be an option. He's more of a low-end guy. Preston Chua is just worth streaming while Anunoby is out, but Anunoby might play today, so that one's going to die. Brandon Pajemski, I think, is at least worth a look. He's probably on the Grimes and Max Christie level of options. So, yeah, maybe okay. Would I prefer him over Buddy Hield? I think it's very borderline. He's okay for 12s. I wouldn't say he's the best option there. And the next one is Milk. Ty Jerome. Jerome has been garnering people's attention. He's still only 17% rostered, though. And despite having what people would say is a pretty good run at things, he's 132nd over the last week. He's averaging 14, 4, and 4. He's shooting 52 from the field. He hasn't missed a free throw. He's got 23 minutes. And with Hunter and Strus and then Okoro and Wade returning, I don't see Ty Jerome as a 12-team league guy, but those numbers are too outsized for me. He's streamable, fine, but those numbers, 46 on Basketball Monster, 17% Yahoo, they're too high. They're too high to be considered, like, that he shouldn't be like on that many 12-team rosters, I don't think. The last two names, we're going to go to Atlanta. George Niang, who could get some of these minutes with a lot of guys out. He's a definite 14-team league guy, Niang. And the other one is Ricochet, who's been, like, let's be honest, dreadful. And they're not actually pumping more minutes into him. In fact, they're dropping his minutes down. And that's, like, not great as the number one overall pick. I don't think that Ricochet is a 12-team league guy at this stage. I think he's more of a 14-team league guy. You could stash and go, well, maybe they ramp it up post-All-Star, which is a very common time for rookies on bad teams to change a lot about their game and their hierarchy on the team. So if you wanted to stash for that, I get it. But what he's doing now, absolutely not worth it at all. And that'll do it. The end of the waiver wire show. I hope there was some good information there. I hope that little bit of extra length was useful for you guys. I hope that you can find it in your hearts to drop a thumb down below and leave your comments and tell me what you think. Like, if you added Bol Bol, or if Bol got added in your league, who got dropped for him? Drop that in the comments. Guys, we are done here. Thank you so much for listening, everyone. See ya. That's the wrong button again. I'm having some real button issues. That's what he said. See ya.